October 17th, 1989, 5:04 p.m. Buck Helm, a 57-year-old longshoreman, drives his silver Chevrolet Sprint north on the Cypress Street Viaduct in Oakland, heading home after another shift at the Port of Oakland. His co-worker, Basil Parker, is just 5 to 10 seconds ahead of him. Parker exits at 7th Street. Buck stays on the double-deck freeway. The World Series is about to start, and he wants to catch it on the radio. He doesn't know it yet, but in less than 5 seconds, the entire upper deck of the freeway will collapse onto the lower level, crushing his car to a height of 3 feet. He doesn't know that his friend Parker will see the freeway pancake in his rearview mirror and realize Buck is trapped inside. He doesn't know that he'll spend the next 90 hours buried in concrete and twisted steel, conscious but unable to call for help. And he absolutely doesn't know that 60 miles south at Candlestick Park, 62,000 baseball fans watching Game 3 of the World Series
hesitation allowing Jose Canseco to score
are about to feel the ground shake, and that their decision to leave work early for the game will save thousands of lives during what should have been the deadliest rush hour in San Francisco Bay Area history. This is the Loma Prieta earthquake, a 6.9 magnitude disaster that killed 63 people, injured 3,757 others, and proved that sometimes the strangest coincidences can be the difference between catastrophe and miracle. And the warning signs had been building for years. June 1988, the Santa Cruz Mountains region experienced a magnitude 5.3 earthquake. It rattled nerves but caused minimal damage. Seismologists took note. The area along the San Andreas Fault had been relatively quiet since the devastating 1906 San Francisco earthquake, designated as a seismic gap, a stretch of fault that hadn't released its built-up energy in decades. That worried scientists. August 1989. Another earthquake struck, this one magnitude 5.4. The California Office of Emergency Services issued short-term advisories for the first time in Bay Area history. There was a slightly increased likelihood of a magnitude 6.5 event on the Santa Cruz Mountain segment of the San Andreas Fault. The advisories went largely unnoticed by the public. Life continued as normal. By October 1989, the Bay Area had turned its attention to something far more exciting than earthquake warnings: baseball. For the first time in history, the San Francisco Giants and Oakland Athletics were meeting in the World Series, the Battle of the Bay Bridge Series. Two teams from the same metropolitan area competed for the championship. The Athletics had dominated the first 2 games in Oakland, winning 5-0 and 5-1. Now the series shifted to San Francisco's Candlestick Park for Game 3. The Oakland A's came into the series as heavy favorites, loaded with future Hall of Famers including Dennis Eckersley, Rickey Henderson, and Dave Parker, plus reigning American League MVP Jose Canseco and slugger Mark McGwire. But the Giants had their own weapons. National League MVP Kevin Mitchell and MVP runner-up Will Clark led one of baseball's most dangerous lineups.
A lineup that helped the Giants to their most wins in almost a quarter century.
The matchup had captured the imagination of the entire Bay Area. October 17, 1989. Afternoon. Across the region, people made plans for the evening. In Oakland, Buck Helm finished his shift at the port and climbed into his Sprint. He commuted 5 hours to Weaverville on weekends to see his family, but during the week he worked the docks and slept in a rusty yellow panel truck he kept parked nearby. Today he'd drive home, catch the game on the radio, and rest up for tomorrow's shift. At Candlestick Park, fans began arriving early for the 5:30 p.m. first pitch. Among them was newly appointed MLB Commissioner Fay Vincent. ABC was broadcasting the game nationally. The excitement was electric. Across the Bay Area, tens of thousands of people had left work early to attend the game or get home in time to watch it on television. The usual rush hour traffic was noticeably lighter than normal. Highways that would typically be packed with commuters at 5 p.m. carried perhaps half the usual volume. Everyone was focused on baseball.
A 3-2 count, a split finger fastball by Mike Moore.
On the Cypress Freeway in Oakland, Buck Helm's car rolled along the lower deck. The double-decker structure had been built in the late 1950s above Cypress Street, constructed partly on filled marshland and partly on more stable ground. In 1977, following new seismic guidelines after the 1971 San Fernando earthquake, some reinforcement had been retrofitted, but the structure remained fundamentally the same: non-ductile reinforced concrete susceptible to catastrophic failure during severe shaking. At 5:04 p.m., the ground began to move. The epicenter lay approximately 60 miles south of San Francisco, near Loma Prieta Peak in the Santa Cruz Mountains, in the forest of Nisene State Park. The earthquake registered magnitude 6.9 on the moment magnitude scale. The shaking lasted approximately 15 seconds. Those 15 seconds changed everything. At Candlestick Park, ABC sports broadcaster Al Michaels was preparing for the opening. "Fails to get Dave Parker at second base," he said, reviewing highlights from the previous games. Then, the stadium began to shake. The light towers swayed. The upper deck rocked violently. The video scoreboard scrambled. The power went out. "I'll tell you what we have," Michael said, his voice calm but urgent. "We're having an earthquake."
Hayes, take.
I'll tell you what, we're having an earthquake.
Inside the stadium, Commissioner Vincent said it sounded like a flight of major military bombers had flown over the ballpark. The roar was deafening. For 15 seconds, 62,000 people held their breath, gripping their seats, watching concrete sway in ways concrete shouldn't sway. Then it stopped. In the eerie silence that followed, people looked at each other in shock. Nobody had sustained serious injuries inside the stadium. The building was held, but the power was gone, and outside, chaos was spreading. In Oakland, on the Cypress Freeway, the shaking amplified on the former marshland. Soil liquefaction occurred. The freeway buckled and twisted. Then the support columns failed. The entire upper deck collapsed onto the lower level. 14 city blocks of double-decker freeway pancaked in seconds. Cars on the upper deck were tossed around violently. Some flipped sideways. Some dangled at the edge of the broken freeway. Cars on the lower level were crushed instantly under thousands of tons of concrete. Buck Helm felt the impact. His silver Sprint compressed to a height of 3 feet. A large beam fell in front of his car at just the right angle, creating a small void space that prevented complete obliteration. He was trapped but alive, conscious but crushed, unable to move, unable to call for help. The windows on the driver's side remained intact, sealing him in silence. Basil Parker, who had exited just seconds earlier, saw the freeway collapse in his mirror. He knew immediately that Buck was trapped inside. He couldn't tell Buck's ex-wife yet, not without knowing if anyone could get him out. For the next 2 nights, Parker couldn't sleep. Nearby residents and factory workers ran to the scene with ladders and forklifts, climbing onto the wreckage and pulling trapped people from cars.
Crashed to the ground, killing at least 5 people sitting in their cars below.
You could hear voices screaming, "Help me, help me, help me," one witness recalled, until the fires just start, poof, and then you don't hear them anymore. 42 people died on the Cypress Freeway. It was the single deadliest location of the entire earthquake. One section of the freeway still had trapped survivors. 9-year-old Kathy Baruman and her younger brother Julio were in a vehicle on the upper deck, elevated about 70 feet above the ground. Their mother had been killed in the collapse. Firefighters reached Kathy first, but Julio was pinned. The only way to free him was amputation. Dr. James Betts, a pediatric surgeon from Oakland's Children's Hospital, drove to the scene with his medical team. The space between the collapsed decks measured only 4 feet high. Dr. Betts had to perform the surgery lying down. "Constantly police, law enforcement, and fire were asking us to come down," he later recalled. There were multiple aftershocks throughout the evening. 7 hours after the earthquake, the boy was finally free. Doctors didn't even know who he was until the next morning when his father showed up at the hospital searching for his children. The children recovered over months and went home with their father just before Christmas. In San Francisco, a 50-foot section of the Bay Bridge's upper deck collapsed onto the eastbound lower deck. Anna Mafi Moala, a 23-year-old woman, died when her car plunged through the gap. The vital transportation artery was unusable. In the Marina District, built on filled land with loose sandy soil, the ground gave way. Homes toppled, gas lines ruptured, fires ignited and spread through the neighborhood. In Santa Cruz, where the earthquake was actually centered, damage was catastrophic. Much of the downtown Pacific Garden Mall collapsed. The older brick structures, many 50 to 100 years old, had been built on unconsolidated river sediments. They failed completely. 3 people were killed in the rubble. In Watsonville, 10 miles south, buildings crumbled. In the Santa Cruz Mountains, landslides closed Highway 17, cutting off traffic between Santa Cruz and San Jose for days. Back at Candlestick Park, the fans and players didn't yet know the full scope of the disaster. This was before cell phones and smartphones. Access to information was limited. Only those with transistor radios immediately understood how devastating the earthquake was. Word eventually spread. The Bay Bridge had collapsed. The Cypress Freeway was down. Fires were burning. This wasn't just a scary moment. This was catastrophic. The game was postponed immediately. Oakland and San Francisco players scrambled to get their families out of the stands and onto the field so they could evacuate together. Tens of thousands of fans exited Candlestick Park in an orderly fashion and drove into a ravaged city. Some found their homes destroyed. Others found loved ones missing. But they were alive, and their presence at the game had saved countless others. The California Highway Patrol later issued a report analyzing transportation deaths. It included a remarkable conclusion. The afternoon commute traffic was lighter than usual for the Bay Area. This was directly attributable to the third game of the World Series. A large number of people were already at the stadium, and an equally large number of people left work early to participate in pre-game activities. Baseball has saved lives. If the earthquake had struck during a normal rush hour with highways at full capacity, the death toll on the Cypress Freeway and Bay Bridge would have been far higher. Hundreds, possibly thousands more people would have died. But for those who were on the roads, the horror was absolute. 42 died on the Cypress Freeway. 1 died on the Bay Bridge. 5 died in San Francisco when a brick wall collapsed on Bluxom Street. 3 died in Santa Cruz. Others died from heart attacks, injuries, and building collapses across the region. The final death toll reached 63. Nearly 3,800 people were injured. On the Cypress Freeway, rescue workers combed through the wreckage for days. They used sniffing dogs, sound sensors, and infrared cameras. They swept the structure 5 times. They found bodies. They found crushed cars. They didn't find anyone alive. After 4 days, they'd given up hope. Then, 89 hours after the earthquake, a Caltrans engineer named Steve Whipple was inspecting the structure's stability from a cherry picker. He was shining his flashlight into the rubble when he saw movement. Buck was luckily conscious at the time, Whipple would later recall, his voice breaking. And so when I was near his car and shining the flashlight on his car, he made a motion that he was still alive. Rescue workers mobilized immediately. The morale went up really high when we found out somebody was alive, said volunteer Mark Biner. The last 2 days we've been working on people that have died. So everybody was kind of fired up. They shored up the freeway below to prevent further collapse, then used jackhammers to pierce the fallen upper deck. Placing support posts every 4 feet, they inched around the back of Buck's car to the driver's side. Paramedic Diana Moore was with Buck throughout the rescue. He was very anxious to get out. He was mainly moaning, she said. Disoriented from dehydration and the trauma, Buck drifted in and out of consciousness. The only thing that he said that was understandable was, "When am I going to get out of here?" They used the jaws of life to cut open his car. When Buck was finally freed, he waved weakly from his gurney. "Thank God I'm alive," he said. The Bay Area erupted in celebration. Lucky Buck, local radio stations called him. They pulled him out, threw him in an ambulance, and yeah, there was cheering and clapping, Whipple remembered. And as soon as he drove away, I just walked away to be by myself. Buck Helm spent the next month in Highland Hospital fighting for his life. He suffered from dehydration, 3 broken ribs, kidney failure, and a fracture at the base of his skull. His ex-wife, Lorene, rushed to be by his side. When we talk with our eyes, with his hands, and with the love that we feel for each other, she told reporters. Get well messages were posted in shop windows throughout his tiny hometown of Weaverville. The whole Bay Area prayed for his recovery. For a while, it looked like he might make it. His condition improved. He was taken off kidney dialysis. Doctors hoped to remove him from the respirator soon. Then, on November 18, 1989, exactly 1 month and 1 day after the earthquake, Buck Helm died of respiratory failure at Kaiser Permanente Medical Center. He was 58 years old. Kurosawa death brought the earthquake's toll to 67 and the Cypress Freeway toll back to 42. The Loma Prieta earthquake caused an estimated $6 billion in property damage, equivalent to over $10 billion today. It damaged approximately 18,300 houses and destroyed 963 more. Nearly 2,600 businesses sustained damage. The Bay Bridge was repaired and reopened within a month, but it became clear the eastern span needed complete replacement. That project wouldn't be completed until 2013. The Cypress Freeway was demolished and wasn't replaced until 1997. In the weeks following the earthquake, California Governor George Deukmejian called an extraordinary legislative session. In just 3 days, the Senate and Assembly passed 24 bills through 12 committees, allocating more than $1 billion in emergency funds to the Bay Area. Additional bills followed, ranging from establishing emergency satellite communications to reimbursing businesses for damaged inventory. But some costs couldn't be measured in dollars. The World Series resumed 10 days later on October 27th, making it the longest delay in World Series history. Emergency responders who had provided assistance following the earthquake threw out ceremonial first pitches. The A's completed their sweep, winning Game 3 by a score of 13-7 and Game 4 by 9-6. But the celebration was subdued. The team didn't pop champagne bottles out of respect for the victims. There were no victory parades. Jose Canseco later described the celebration as somber. That took a lot away from the celebration aspect and what the Oakland A's had actually accomplished, he said. We never had the parades. We never did any of that. It was kind of like a somber celebration behind it. More than 35 years later, the 1989 World Series is remembered not for baseball, but for the earthquake that interrupted it. The series that should have been a joyous celebration of Bay Area baseball became a footnote to tragedy, but it also became something else, a reminder that timing matters, that coincidence can save lives, that sometimes being in the right place at the wrong time means you survive. If the earthquake had struck 2 hours earlier, during normal rush hour, the death toll would have been catastrophic. Thousands of cars would have been on the Cypress Freeway, thousands more on the Bay Bridge. The highways would have been packed. Instead, they were half empty because people had left work early to watch baseball. A game saved lives. A trivial entertainment became the difference between disaster and apocalypse. The question that haunts seismologists is the same one that should haunt all of us. When the next major earthquake strikes the Bay Area, and it will strike, will we be as lucky? Or will it come during rush hour when millions are vulnerable, when the freeways are packed, when the timing is worst? We can't control when earthquakes happen. We can only prepare, build better, and hope that if it comes again, we're not in the wrong place, at the wrong time. If you found this story of tragedy, coincidence, and the strange way baseball saved thousands of lives as gripping as we did, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're covering the most intense natural disasters in history, the ones that changed everything and revealed the thin line between catastrophe and survival. Don't miss the next one, and drop a comment below. Were you in the Bay Area during the Loma Prieta earthquake? What do you remember? We want to hear your stories. Stay safe out there.